are back.
You want me to go ahead and pull this one in?
Yeah.
So today with us, we've got Tyson Gibbons, and obviously current chief of police, Tarkio, running for Atchison County Sheriff. And Tyson, I'm going to go back through a couple of things, but the elections actually win.
The election this year, I believe, will be August 6th. I think everyone that is putting their name in the hat for that position is going to be on the Republican ballot.
Okay.
So everything should take place on August 6th unless somebody files as a Democrat, independent, libertarian, and then that runoff would be the main one in November.
Right. Yep. Okay. So I did have one quick question on that before I ask you the first question I want to ask you, but do you, out of curiosity, I've noticed in the past that everybody here runs Republican, so it's almost always decided at primary.
Yeah.
Do you think, and the only reason I ask this, do you ever think it would be, this one will probably be a little bit different because you're not running against, tenured Dennis anymore. Yeah. But do you think it would ever benefit anybody just to run as independent or libertarian or even Democrat?
It could, especially independent. I don't know about Democrat. I just have they just leave a bad taste in my mouth.
I know, yeah.
So, especially given the current state of our nation,
yeah,
and our border situation, it just blows my mind with some of the decisions they make.
Right,
but independent, it could. And two, even though say August comes around and if there's 3-4 people on the ballot, if it's a close race, a person can come back in and file again after the August election as a write-in.
Gotcha.
And then their information that people could write them in at the November election.
Okay. The only reason I ask that is I know everybody has their political views, but everybody voting on each of you knows all of you. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you put yourself in as independent or Democrat or libertarian or something, I don't know that anybody would feel like, I don't know, is that falsifying? I mean, are you not even allowed to do that? I've always wondered why it's just like, okay, guess I'm going to run on the Democrat side so that we can get to the Democrat-Republican ballot. So in my mind, and maybe it doesn't work like this, but it would potentially, in some cases, open up more votes because, like, if I go in and ask for the Democrat ballot, I can't vote on the sheriff.
Correct.
Which is, in my opinion, a bummer. But, like, if one of you ran as Democrat later for the November one, like, you would then potentially open yourself up to more votes, right?
Yes.
I mean,
well, you potentially could. And the one in, phone's ringing. In November, say like I went in and signed up on the first day and signed up as a Republican. Mm-hmm. Now, again, the only thing you can do come, August 6th after that election is to file as a write-in.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. You can't refile.
You wouldn't be signing back in as another, because that's what the primary runoff is for, is to kind of eliminate the herd, so to say, and bring those numbers down to where it's, party-to-party runoffs.
Yeah. The only reason I ask that is because if I were to sit down and vote and I saw you with the D next to your name on that vote, like, I know you and most everybody else knows you well enough to know he's not like a crazy left-wing Democrat. He would just be running in order to get it to the final election, And I've always wondered.
And that's happened in the past. Back in the day, even, we're talking about Dennis too. Back in the day, he was a Democrat.
Gotcha.
He ran initially as a Democrat, remained in that party until a few years or a few cycles back, he switched to Republican.
Okay, gotcha.
And I don't know without going back to the election and looking, but I think the sheriff that he ran against, because I believe it was Jack Millsap. Mm-hmm. I believe he was a Republican then, and Dennis ran on the Democratic ticket.
Side,
kind of the same theory.
Same thing, yep.
Everybody knows that you're really not a Democrat, but you're running on that Democratic ticket to get it to that larger populist group come November.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's just one thing I've always wanted to clear up with the particularly sheriff, and then sometimes you see that too with commission too. I've noticed everybody will pile on the Democrat for commission,
and county elections, people will do that just so that there's one on each side.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you for answering that. So I guess where I was going to start is you want to run for Atchison County Sheriff.
Yes.
You're from Atchison County, and specifically you grew up in Tarkio or Westboro?
Well, that's kind of one of those things. When I went to school,
I could be way off, I guess.
When I landed in kindergarten, I went to Westboro School with a Tarkio address.
Gotcha.
Never understood how that worked. With a Westboro phone number. So, I went to Westboro and then eventually went from being a Wildcat, came to Tarkio by starting in 7th grade and became a Tarkio Indian and graduated from Tarkio.
From Tarkio. Yeah. So you're from here, just
Yes.
so everybody knows.
Yep. I'm from here.
Awesome. Let me see. Out of curiosity, and maybe this is something I should have asked you probably before we started recording, but how's Terry doing?
Doing pretty good.
I haven't seen him in a very long time, I don't feel like.
Yeah, the getting COVID between COVID shots back when COVID was a much more a more dangerous strain of COVID, the first alpha. He went and got his first shot to try and not ever have that, or to have a lesser effect of it if he were to get it. And he got his shot and then got COVID in the middle of it. And it was rough on him. There's no doubt about it. Age, lifestyle stuff like that stuff all played in effect. Lost quite a bit of weight while he was there. He spent nearly 5 months up in Lincoln.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it was kind of on and off at first, but then all of a sudden he was there. He was stuck there. When they moved him from his room that he originally started in there, he thought he was going home, and they just moved him upstairs for 90 days. So, but he's doing better. Yeah, he has good days and bad days, just like with anybody, because it did do some damage to his lungs.
Yeah.
So he does occasionally, you'll see him with oxygen, and sometimes you see him without it. It just depends upon how he's feeling that day. But he's really become a good steward of his own health, monitoring that oxygen level.
Awesome. That's cool. Did I ever tell you the first time I met Terry? Probably up close and personal anyway. He was chewing my ass because I had gone into the wind turbine that he has right off of 59 Highway.
Yeah.
And I had left the gate open because I was only going to be in there for like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he just pulls up. He's like, "Did you leave that gate open?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he just let me have it.
Must have been a cow out there somewhere.
Well, he's like, "There could be, and you don't know how fast they're going to get there." He's like, "Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, Terry. I'm sorry. You're right. I shouldn't have done it. I'm being lazy. Like, I totally was in the wrong, and I knew it when I was doing it. It's just." He had me for lunch.
Farmers and their cattle were, they took offense if, my cows are out. What?
I was 18, I just.
Well, the funny thing about that is, like I said, I'd hear calls about it being here. Hey, there's cows out up there. It's like, Dad, I'm dialing the phone as fast as I can. Dad, you need to get out there and wrangle them things up and get them off the highway. Because, they're just like deer.
Yeah.
But thicker.
Right.
You hit one of those, it's like hitting a brick wall practically.
Yeah. Yes.
It has a little give, but not much. A ton.
And if you're low enough, it's easy to flip them into the car.
It's not what you want.
It's not what you want.
No.
There was a kid back in high school that hit one with a square body Chevy, and it went up over the cab and landed in the bed of the truck.
Oh.
And it spread the back end out, and the tailgate, of course, fell off. And the cow slid right on out.
Oh, wow.
But it didn't touch the cab. He just went right on. It hit it hard enough, and, it was black cow, middle of the night. Of course, headlights back then didn't work with but
no HIDs.
They'll go flying, too.
I got you. I was going to ask you one thing real quick. When you came up and talked to the Boy Scouts the other night, you kind of went through this briefly, but let's just go through it now before we jump into Kiefer's agenda up here, if that's okay with you, Keith, honey.
You're doing great.
I'm doing great. Could we just talk through let's talk at what got you interested in police officer work, and then talk about your training and all your experience up to this point.
Okay.
And I want you to do it in 2.5 minutes or less.
Well,
I'm just kidding. You have all the time you want.
I know more than 3.
I can do it in just probably closer to 3.
Okay.
I got into it because I like being outdoors, and I liked helping people. My dad was a volunteer fireman. I'd see him going to calls, to helping the folks in Westboro whenever they would have a house fire. And it really kind of got me interested in it, especially as I got older, around 16, 17 years old. And then applying for college, what are you going to do with your career? I was like, well, I got a backup plan. I could always go back and farm.
Yeah.
But that...
Must be nice.
Yeah. I don't know. But nowadays it'd be interesting. I mean, just all the technology on it. Back in them days was like an old clunker tractor. But back on the topic, I enjoyed that. Seeing that, especially once there was finally one time he took me to a fire, and it was like, wow. I mean, this is more than just a bunch of guys standing around with the hose, firing water at it. These guys were, once it was over with, they're cleaning up stuff and helping the people, and that really kind of got my teeth, really wet my teeth on wanting to help people. I know there's not a full-time fire department here locally, but there is law enforcement, and getting into that field, that aspect of being outdoors all the time and being able to help people and having a scenery that always changes. It's never the same thing 2 days in a row.
Right, yep.
And I love that aspect.
Yes.
Just absolutely love it. Even in a small town.
Right, yeah. Yeah, even people think what we do is like different every day. Sort of, kind of, but there's always kind of the same thing happening, and it's just kind of like, which process route am I following today, which I know that you have a lot of those as well, but because of the large, I guess, discrepancies in what you could be dealing with day to day, it's probably so many more processes that you kind of got to go through, and some of it there probably isn't anything for. You just kind of have to think on your feet. Yeah,
and it's kind of like today I didn't have a call. I'm actually off duty today, but there was a call for a garage fire. I was like, oh, man, should I go? Should I not? My wife, she was home. I wouldn't be going, so I jumped in the car and took off.
Yep,
and went to it, and I knew kind of the scenario as they were playing it out. I mean, kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't really ready to run out the door yet, but as I'm going to it, it's like I'm really not going to be able to do anything given the information. But I'm still going to go there if they need some help with this and that. Well, got there, and the parties involved were, they'd been in there fighting. They fought that fire by themselves in the garage. And they're still wandering around, but you can tell with the black soot face that it's like, okay, you guys need to go to the ambulance. And they're like, why?
How much you've inhaled.
You're coughing up stuff that you shouldn't have ingested. I mean, that plastic containers, I'm sure there's probably a California stamp 65 on the bottom of that thing that says you shouldn't inhale this. So we got them in there and got them checked out. But, again, it's even that. It's like, I have a hard time not going.
Right, yeah.
I was like, I got things to do today. Oh, I'm gone.
Right, but it's where you want to be.
Yes, that's where I want to be. I enjoy helping everyone. I just, even in that scenario, they didn't think they had any problem.
Do you like that little bit of like adrenaline you get when you get a call or something?
It's hard to get an adrenaline dump anymore for me because I've done like everything, but, for the most part. But sometimes you do. Yeah. I'll be honest. Yeah, you'll get in there and it's like, oh yeah. Because I get to play dual roles. Being the boss, I'll elect to go out and check on calls like today's fire, even though I'm off. There's an EMS aspect to it too, because I'm also certified as an EMTB in the state of Missouri and with the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians. So sometimes the last big adrenaline dump was it was a medical call. We applied things such as like the Lucas device, which it does all the chest compression down. Nobody stands there and bangs their head on the ceiling or flies across the compartment anymore trying to stand up in the back of a rig to do it. There's a machine that's doing all the work for you. It's far more efficient than we could ever be. And they came back. We had, we were able to bring back a viable person, and that was an adrenaline dump.
Right, yep.
I mean, it was when we got done with that one, I got back home, it was like just melted.
Yeah.
There on the couch.
Yeah, especially knowing like in my training, for a long time they didn't always tell you what the success rate of CPR was, but it's low.
Yeah.
Very low.
And like people blame themselves, like they don't feel like, and it's like even if you did everything 100% right, it's still a pretty low success rate. And I finally had an instructor that said, I always tell everybody that. Because I don't, you know what I mean? Because initially he said a lot of people didn't want to teach that because it would deter people from doing it. But then they found out that it's causing people more trauma, feeling like they did something wrong.
Yeah.
And of course, the machine's never going to get out of sync. It's going to do it exactly right, all that stuff.
The machine does all the timing, the whole 9 yards. And the great thing about the machine is and in my experience, I'm just part-time. I pick up a gig every once in a while and go down and work on the ambulance when they need it, or first respond and help them get to the hospital. But I've seen more. I've done a lot of chest compressions on people. I've seen the Lucas do a lot of chest compression, and I've seen that thing do wonders.
Yep.
I've seen more people come back with that machine than I have doing it manually because it is precise. It's doing it repetitively at the right distance, the right depth of compressions. It's phenomenal.
Yep. That's awesome. So kind of back to training. So you kind of talked about what got you interested. So just kind of training that you've been to, and then maybe if we don't get too far off track, like each kind of department on your way up to where you're at today.
Yeah, I started off at Rockport Police Department.
Okay.
Back in 1996.
City of.
Yep. City of Rockport, Missouri, county seat. Started there about April 15th of 96. Went through the academy with the city of Rockport.
Okay.
Graduated August of that year and began my career working on the road as just a regular beat officer.
Gotcha.
Doing normal patrols similar to what we do here. Back in them days, we didn't do much emergency medical response. It was a cop was a cop, and EMS was an EMS, a firefighter was a firefighter.
Yep.
Where anymore it's fairly mingled. Everybody kind of knows what some of the people's roles are and what to look for. But started off there at Rockport, was there for a year and a half, a year and 3/4, and then went to the city of Shenandoah, Iowa.
Gotcha.
I went through the Iowa's equivalent of the Missouri Post, which I got for when I was at Rockport. Went through theirs. It's called ILEA, Iowa Law Enforcement Academy.
Do any certifications transfer state to state, or do you
Yeah.
always? They do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I went up there and tested out.
Gotcha. Okay.
The only thing I had to do after that was about 40 hours roughly of in-service stuff to make me certified, because they use different machinery. The blood alcohol machine in Missouri was a computer you typed on. Up there, it was the machine that we had was what we called, literally, we always referred to it as the dial-it-drunk, because it had a crystal you had to put in there, and you had to zero it yourself.
Wow.
And you'd sometimes slip that crystal, and it's like, whoa, somebody spun it, and you're like, ugh. You're trying to dial that thing back, and that's how I got its nickname, dial-it-drunk. There was one that was prior to it that was even worse. But
inaccurate or just
it
finicky?
It was a very accurate machine, but in the one in Missouri, you typed in everything, went done, and then you just handed them a hose.
Yep.
Well, that one up there, you had to put the crystal in. Well, the one in Missouri is doing all of it. You can hear it clicking, banging. You can hear things moving inside. It's doing all that work for you. Up there, you're doing it yourself.
Wow.
So it was like a 20-hour course of itself on how to run the machine. In Missouri, it's like 8.
Yeah.
You know how to type your name? Okay, that's first. Up there, you didn't type anything in it. I mean, it literally, you stuck a slip in it. You did the zeroing, and you had to do it to a certain degree, and those things were finicky every time. And you just wanted to smash it. And then once you got done, it just printed out a little bitty slip.
Yeah. And this was what, like 98?
98, 97, 98.
Yep.
Went through, like I said, I worked for Shenandoah until about 2001, and that's when I came back to Atchison County.
Gotcha.
Now, I learned quite a bit. The training was a little more different in Iowa. They were a little more intense about things, and I got certain courses and classes that I didn't get in Missouri before. Up there, they trained you how to spot drug abuse in a driver, a drug driver, not just a drunk driver.
Right.
You could find those all day long, but they trained you how to find a drug driver under the influence of meth, marijuana, the different stimuluses and whatnot.
Yep.
To the point that you could testify that you could say, okay, I recognize this behavior, plus he's also failing the standards.
Yep.
And had that ability. Like I said, they were a little more. They like to train that kind of stuff up there.
Yeah.
And it was good training. And then in 2001, I spoke with Dennis and ended up coming back to Atchison County and worked at the sheriff's office there till 2005. Picked up tons of extra hours of training. When they asked the other night, how how many hours of training. When they mentioned it, I'm sitting there going, no, that number's going to be big. I got to figuring it up just if I did the basics for what I've had to do to maintain my certifications. I'm in the 850 range, and I know I have more than just the basics. I'm usually running about 10 over every year.
Yeah.
So I'm well into probably closer to 1,200 hours.
Gotcha.
But yeah, came back, Atchison County. I kind of had a niche for then. The methamphetamine scene wasn't so much buying it; it was they made it.
Yeah.
Cold pills were flying off the shelves, and there was a task force that had been made up to deal with that directly. And I had been running around with them for certain cases. I actually made 2 or 3 cases in Atchison County as a deputy with them that had federal charges for manufacturing. One guy had like 10,000 blister packs in his burn barrel he was getting ready to burn that day.
Yeah.
And that violated certain federal laws in manufacturing, because they can go through there and then determine that amount of pills will make this much meth.
Yep.
So we had all that calculations. I got certifications, crazy certifications, like a meth lab tech. Yeah.
Yeah, and now I can't go buy my Sudafed at the self-checkout because
Correct.
of all this stuff, if anybody's interested.
Yeah. The way my allergies are, I need some. But I can't go get it.
Quick question on that. So meth got really prominent, particularly in the county, but kind of in general. What span would you put there? Like 95 to 05, 96.7 to...
Well, it was a problem before I went to the academy.
Okay.
It was coming. I mean, it was pouring on the coals about 95, 96 when I got started. When I came back to Atchison County, it was really going. And talking about Shenandoah, during that 3-year time that I was in Shenandoah, like I said, they were really training us on traffic stops, making these contacts. We were utilizing traffic stops, for one, mainly was to find thieves. We were having businesses broke into left and right. We were getting tired of walking the main streets, fronts and backs. So we just started stopping everything in sight.
Yeah.
And it slowed down. If you're that crazy presence, that law enforcement presence really started to shine through with that traffic stop. Even if we're just up there talking to them for a few minutes, well, the lights are on. They're bouncing off of every house, building, and everything else around. And thieves don't want to do that if you're actually out there stopping people.
Right.
So we got into that, but I really got into the niche of finding meth labs. I found 7 in my last year and a half in cars.
Yeah.
Mobile meth labs.
Yep.
One of them, we got up there and it's like it had the felony forest going on inside the car. There was 9 trees across the windshield. Big old bundle in the middle. It's like, oh, yeah.
Right.
And I can smell the entire bottle of cologne coming from the vehicle. And my partner, because we were 2 men up there, he comes up and I'm looking around in there. He's looking around in there, and then it caught my eye as to what I was looking at. It's like, oh crap. So we get these guys out. We cuff them up, and he was like, "What do you see?" Go back there, and we pull this, those big moonshine-looking containers, glass containers, 2 of those 1-galloners in the back seat full of ether.
Yep.
And we're both like, we're too close.
I was going to say it's extremely dangerous. So they felt like, I suppose the need was to not be stuck in one location.
Yep.
But wouldn't that, in my mind, my simple brain, I'm not a meth addict or manufacturer, but in my mind, I feel like that's safer than trying to transport it quickly at any given time. But maybe not. Maybe it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah,
but
back then, it was just strange.
They used
they're
to catch
paranoid.
They used to catch their campers on fire, not moving.
Campers. One gentleman, we dealt with him quite regularly. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. Did his mix right here, roadside.
Okay.
And that anhydrous, upon contact, will do terrible things to your genitalia.
Yeah.
And he met that demise one day.
Oh no.
He screwed the lid on too tight, and it was in a glass container, and it
Busted.
Didn't kill him. Probably could have bled out from the debris, but he put the lid on too tight, and that was all over his
burning
crotch. And
right, that's what it does. But it just burns.
Burns.
You. Yeah.
And he had some parts that had to be removed.
Yep. I got you.
That's a risk I don't think I would take.
No, it's just cool to talk about that because, like, I guess I knew it was always around, but by the time we were in high school in, like, 2005, 6, it was pretty it was out there, but not, I guess, not near maybe the epidemic, or it didn't feel like the epidemic it was for probably, say, I don't know, people that are still in my generation, but maybe closer to 8, 10, 12 years older than me. It seems like they kind of grew up and it was just everywhere.
Yeah, it was. That generation gap in there, especially some of the older ones. I said, even still to this day, there's still a bunch of them that are 5 to 10 years older than me that are still just hot and heavy in it.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at my age and down below, it becomes less.
Yeah.
Add the advent of the passing of the recreational marijuana in Missouri, really, you want to talk about seeing something change.
Yeah.
From a law enforcement officer side, and we're still seeing the effects of it. I know I am, just knowing what's going on. It still hasn't settled. The dust still hasn't settled with it on our side.
Yeah, there's still enough of it out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But it has lessened a lot of your Schedule 1, Schedule 2s in the area. Yeah, there's some meth around here. There's still an occasional fentanyl issue, but you look back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, meth was crazy. And I mean, even the people that were using it weren't crazy.
Yeah.
Still, unfortunately, they were still able to manufacture it.
So, like, when we go, I have a question about fentanyl, too, which I don't want to forget. But, like, whenever I would go around with, like, when we're setting up the site out here, like, obviously everything that we do is regulated by the government because we're a public regulated utility, which none of the other entities in this area that have wind turbines are.
Yeah.
But they would bring security folks up, and they would just talk about all the crazy things that most of the time people involved in meth were doing in substations or around generators or whatever they could get to steal stuff or whatever. And like they would tell me all these stories, and I was like, they were just like, you just don't know what people are going to do. And I was like, I've lived here my whole life. We have people that are on meth, and like, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but I just want to look at them and be like, our country meth heads are much smarter and usually safer than your city meth heads, because like I don't know if like there's people we all know that are on it. Or people that we know of that are on it, and like it doesn't seem like a lot of those really crazy, bizarre breaking in, stealing type of things happen as common anymore, but maybe I just don't realize it. It just seems like most of our folks that are in this area that are on meth just like want to do their meth in their little groups, and for the most part
they do.
Yeah.
But they're still stealing.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying anything that they're doing is not illegal. I just, whenever I think through like all the crazy horror stories, it's just like, yeah, it's not quite that. It's up here, but it's just not quite that crazy. Typically, at least recently.
Well, and my thought, and I would say thought that in my experience, especially over the last few years, if we addressed more of the stealing aspect, the stealing crimes, you're gonna find drugs.
Right.
That's just
Gotcha.
how it boils down anymore. If stuff are coming up missing, they're selling it to go buy the next fix.
Gotcha. Yep.
Most people don't steal GPSs off of John Deere tractors in the middle of a field to feed their kids.
Right. Yeah.
They're stealing
not
it
what
so
you're
that they
after.
can go find the next fix and possibly even sell it
Sell it. Right.
for the
yeah.
next fix as well. So, yeah.
Gotcha. That's interesting. And then fentanyl, apparently cheap and easy to get. Is that why it's so prevalent? Because at one time it was hard to get and expensive.
Well,
Wasn't it? Or maybe I'm wrong on that too.
in the medical world, the addiction aspect came of it from the passing of certain legislation so that drug type, that opioid type, could be used to treat pain.
Right.
Because it does a really good job. But it also has a very high addiction rate. Once we started passing out those medications for knee sprains, ankle sprain, toe sprains, and stuff like that, and people started becoming more addicted to it, that brought more light back to your heroin, your opioid issues. And so that trade just kind of sparked back up and
Gotcha.
started coming.
Are they putting it in there to actually purposely get you addicted to try to come back?
Oh, it's addicted. It's addictive, period.
Well, it seems like me as a drug dealer, if I was going to cut my stuff with fentanyl, which frankly most time ends up killing the person you're sold to, it seems like it's going to destroy your whole market base from a purely business standpoint. But is it so that they can sell? Can they cut their drugs down, the expensive drugs, and people are still getting high, so they still come back for it? Like, what is the reason that fentanyl is so popular in like mixing it with other drugs?
Mixing it with other drugs is just to get you addicted to that.
To the drug.
Too.
Okay.
When they're dropping in like carfentanil and fentanyl, the higher levels of those opioids, and they're mixing it in with like heroin or some other drug.
Cocaine, whatever.
Cocaine, which is kind of screwed up because now you're trying to go up and down at the same time. Talk about ADD and ADHD.
Some people really like that.
That'd be like actually that'd be like a drug bipolar. When you're mixing, especially those high potency ones, that's where the mistakes come into play because they don't realize that this tiny little grain has enough to drug 1,000 people.
Right.
I mean, it's so potent at such a small amount, and they're not mixing it. They're chopping it up and then trying to mix it in there, and that's just wrong. I mean, they're not getting even close to the amount of dilution that they need to get to where it's safe. You have to be a chemist for that.
Yeah.
And even they're getting it wrong.
You're right. Yeah, I got you. Are they, since, let's say, in the last, I'm trying to think, when did fentanyl become a real problem? Say, what, 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
About 4 or 5 years ago. That's when the legislation and whatnot really...
There have been less deaths more recently, say, in the last couple of years because of it, is still killing almost as many people as was when they first started, kind of.
It's actually gone up. It's still climbing.
Gotcha. So they're not getting better at it.
It used to be almost like meth and heroin was, kind of in the same price bracket, and all of a sudden, the meth kind of climbed a little bit, and then the heroin just kind of bottomed out. It just, especially whenever pills, even like the price of pills kind of went down a little. It's because there was just so much of it out there. And you were having like pads and stuff stolen, and people were getting, trying to get their hands on as many scripts as they could. But legalizing it, that for doctors to prescribe really kind of pushed that that need again.
I gotcha. So we got up to, that was, thank you, very, very, how do I want to put this? Very informative. Do you got to switch a camera real quick?
Go ahead, keep talking.
Are you sure? Okay. But, okay, so we've gotten up to, for the county, after the county, did Tarkio after the county?
Nope, in 2005, I was asked to join the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms. I know those are a bad thing to say nowadays, but it was a drug task force called NITRO.
Gotcha.
NITRO stood for Northwest Missouri Interagency Team Response Operation.
Gotcha.
Its primary, at its inception, through Todd Graves' office, through the United States Attorney's Office. That's where that was, with the SA, I got to remember what that, the guy that pushed it through, I believe that was Dave Wynn, and I know Bill Wright was in, he was a special agent with the ATF at the time, and he was also a country boy, over from around the Grundy County, Princeton, the I-35 area over that direction.
Yep.
And through Todd Graves' office, NITRO was formed. Folks, we were actually kind of like a grant-driven type of group.
Gotcha.
Everybody's salary and pay was on, grant that we had to apply for every year, and it was it originally was for the production of methamphetamine and deal with the production of methamphetamines in these small counties. About the time that I joined and really kind of came on board, that's when that ephedrine law really tightened everything down.
Gotcha.
So I thought we were going to be sneaking around in backwoods, kind of like what I was doing in Atchison County as it was, sneaking up and finding these guys cooking, kind of like in the backwoods or in their back lot.
Yeah, out off of M Highway, out in that area. Yeah.
There was one good one in Watson. I don't ever want to relive. But I thought we were going to be doing that, and my first team meeting on the task force was, congratulations, welcome to the board, welcome to the team. This is what we're going to be doing, but we're going to shift gears today. Like, oh, what are we shifting gears to? I thought we were going to be sneaking around in the woods. No, we're going to be doing a wiretap.
Oh.
We're going to be moving forward to do a Title III wiretap. I'm like, wow, okay, well, that changed. I was having fun sneaking through people's backyards. So we moved within 90 days of me going on, working on that team. We went into our first Title III wiretap. The team we ended up indicting. There was a lot of people.
Yeah.
I hate to speculate. I mean, probably close to triple digits. 52 stands out in my mind on the in the ballpark for like the first and second rounds. But we were listening to the wiretap, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is cool. We're gonna listen to this, gather all this evidence." But then they took off and went towards Mexico.
Gotcha.
The distributor's mule took off and went to Mexico. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Sure enough, they take off, and so did everybody but me and one other guy on the task force.
Yeah.
We were stuck in the wire room doing 50-50 of that thing until they came back and we could get our guys that had took off and went clear to El Centro, California, following this target to that location and brought the drugs back.
Wow.
We did 3 of those. The last 2 weren't as intense. We did get some, what I call like a leapfrog assistance from other agencies all the way there and back. But again, it's kind of like now, with the advent of more and more technology, by the time we got to our, I say 3, but it was more like 9th wiretap that we did, a Title III, we had GPSs. And you could just sit there and watch in the car as they drive around Kansas City instead of having to drive all over Kansas City.
Kansas City, yeah.
He goes to his supplier. We just sit in the office and watch.
Yep.
Had pole cams. I mean, other different tools. There was just the technology was really coming into play.
Yep.
And I would love to see what and I have seen some of what they have now, and it's incredible.
Gotcha.
There's a ton of tools out there electronically.
Yeah. So maybe I'm going to use this term real lightly, but maybe not quite as much fun is the traditional way, but much more efficient, basically.
It's far more efficient.
Yeah.
And safer.
A lot safer.
Yep.
The first GPS, I remember, we put it on day 1, we lost it. The guy went 100 mile an hour down a road, fell off.
Yep.
KCMO.
That never
PD.
happens to Batman.
No. But our very first one it looked like a mag light on the bottom side of it, and it plugged into the GPS. That was the batteries.
Yep.
And that's
Keep
what
it
fell
going.
off. And it had stamped on there, ATF, So, so KCMO PD finds it like roadside or something. And
Yeah.
they're like, hey, we got our battery pack back. And it's like,
Great.
been run over 400 times. There was not much
Guy's
left.
gone.
Yeah. 100 mile an hour. But then, like, the newer ones were like those little bitty, like the otter boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's all the bigger they were. I mean, it's about that big, about that thick, with really good magnets on it, and you just slapped it on.
Yep.
Now
Cool.
with everybody having phones, so you can just ping
Now,
towers, right?
Yeah, now it's down to just getting a search warrant, pinging their phone.
Phone.
You
Yeah.
can follow anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
You probably don't even have to ping towers anymore with how everybody has Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You get IP addresses right away.
Yeah.
All that stuff. This isn't quite where I want to go, but I did want to ask this question at one point. So, kind of your thoughts on, I guess, kind of the road we're going down, like your finances being watched, everything you're doing on your phone's virtually tracked. There's a lot of people that overall feel like you're slowly infringing on people's rights for that stuff. But do you ever also notice that most everybody is cheering for that when they turn on an episode of Criminal Minds or Law and Order, and they're just like, yeah, that's right, get them, get them.
But a lot of times, we'll have a case of somebody has a complaint about something, and it's electronically related, and they're like, well, you should be able to get that information.
Right, yeah.
You can.
Yeah. And then you want to ask that person, are you signed up so that we can do that? Well, no, you have no business looking at what I'm doing, but I want you looking at what this person's doing, right?
Exactly. And it's like, and two, the process isn't an easy process. There is an application process anytime you're doing something electronically. And that's something too that we as law enforcement officers must ensure that we're not violating that person's right that you're investigating. You
Yep.
know, the criminal may be a criminal, but they have rights just the same as you.
Yep.
So
And people forget that
yeah,
constantly.
and they think that CSI is the going time frame. But in 45 minutes, they're going to have this case.
Yeah,
That's
but when
not
you
the
go back and
case.
watch that stuff, it's 3 months, 6 months,
Yeah.
8 months. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like those SVUs where they say, 6 months later, everybody's got a new haircut. All right, it's real there. You know, that's a better time frame.
Right. Yes. Yes. But people probably feel like watching the episode and don't realize what the time sink is, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, usually you can do this pretty quick.
Yeah,
You know?
Is there like a standard for doing investigations at like the sheriff's department here in the county? Is there like practices and standards that they use, or?
Well, we all have kind of for one, whenever something comes in a call of anything, we have to determine if it's actually criminal or civil. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get into a case where it's like, oh, he stole that from me. Okay, so explain it to me. Well, I loaned it to him, and he's actually renting to own it. It's like, well, now we've jumped 2 hoops of it into civil that we can't call it a theft anymore because you've gone into a civil agreement. So we've got to right out the gate. I mean, we're constantly and I know people hate to hear, oh, that's a civil problem, but unfortunately that's a part of that rights portion.
Until you can prove otherwise.
Yeah, until it's something else, until it meets a new burden. If it's a civil case, in most cases we're just our hands are tied.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You went into an agreement, a civil agreement with somebody over something, and now they're not paying you for it. It's not theft. It's
Right.
non-payment of a good.
Yep.
And that's not a crime because you guys got into a civil agreement.
Right.
Because there's so many things of like repo laws, like cars.
Well, or
cars get repoed.
And I could be wrong here, but kind of even squatting.
Yeah.
Kind
It's
of the
tough.
same, or down the same line, basically. I mean, it's like you entered a civil agreement where they're going to use your property that you own, but they just quit paying. But it's not. It's not like we could. It's not easy to just boot them out of
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't automatically become trespass when they
Yes.
they quit paying.
Right.
And squatters do have rights too. That's the first thing you look at. Is do I have a crime? You really got to ask that question, and then sometimes and it really pulls on cops, especially when you get into something that's like you're just imagine. The normal person would just jaw drop, but then you get through it all, and then they go, change my mind, don't want to prosecute it. And you're just like, what? I would. That's and it isn't. Some people think, oh, it's because cops don't want to do anything. It's like, no, I'm gonna go the mile to make sure that you're not being victimized. And so don't think that I'm pissed because I've done all this work and you changed your mind. It's just that I guess I don't understand that why a person would want to continue to be a victim.
Right. Yeah.
It is a hard thing for cops to grasp because it's like, man, we got him. Well, I changed my mind. It's like,
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
how? And each person's different. And so we kind of have to live with that.
Right.
But yeah, you're going through the process, determine if it's a crime. Once you've determined that, yes, you have a crime in place here, you investigate it. A lot of cops these days have forgotten the old school tactics. That part where they go and actually knock on the door of the neighbor. I love that.
Take notes.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Say Joe down the street has somebody broke into his house and stole something. Especially like in towns, larger towns like this, that the officers are just out there literally just taking the report.
Right.
Going
Yeah.
back.
Yep.
You really can't do that here. So, you really need to be going out there knocking the door because we are the investigator.
Correct,
We're going to
yeah.
investigate that from start to finish.
Yep. You don't have patrol guys that then turn it over to like homicide or
Yep.
whoever does detective work, et
Property
cetera.
crimes,
Yeah.
I would give my right arm for a full-time investigator because, there's things that we on us beat cops need to do right out the gate. Like I said, go take the report, make that determination. Yep, there's a crime. Let's go talk to the neighbors. I love the fact that everybody's got a ring and a blink. That's the going thing anymore of intel gathering to see what's going on and who's going by, and we can identify people a lot faster. Unlike back 10 years ago, you couldn't.
Right.
But still, that door knocking is very critical.
For getting like the blink and stuff, all you have to do is just ask the homeowner if you could.
Yep, get their consent. If they're good with it, and they can email it to you. I mean, once they email it to you, it's now your open record.
Yeah.
It's your property now. Now it's my property to use it for that
Gotcha.
investigation to help that other person.
I imagine most people aren't like, no.
No. When you tell them, hey, this is what we're investigating, neighbor down the street was burglarized, and this is the importance of going door to door. I love. Because you wouldn't believe that how many times I've knocked on that door and they're like, yeah, my shovel came up missing. Well, they used the shovel next door.
Yeah.
So it was your shovel that went over there.
Well, plus, if
crowbar.
if you were to just send a text message to somebody on that street or whatever the case might be, or you know what I mean, or maybe not even meet them face to face, anymore people don't trust that you're doing the right stuff with that information.
Yeah.
But when they're in a room or on a stoop talking to somebody, they much easier can gauge what your intent is.
Yeah, and like I said, I like that, going out and talking to these neighbors too, because when you're out there, okay, so the crime happened over here, but I ended up cutting through your yard because that's kind of where the perimeter or kind of the the area of this crime occurred.
I saw those plants you're growing back there.
That's happened.
You're lucky I'm busy.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, I came back and the guy still had them.
Twice as many.
Get around that perimeter, check things out. Yeah. The neighbors are going to see you and be like, what the hell? So letting them know, and like I said, asking that question, hey, did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Is there anything that I might have missed? It's a great question, but a lot of people don't anticipate you asking that question because sometimes it ends up being a longer conversation too. But still, you get a ton of information out.
Yeah.
And it's great to meet those people like that.
Yeah, and I mean, doing the face-to-face, that builds a lot better rapport with your community, so they trust that you're doing the right thing, and you actually have their best interest in heart.
And there's nothing saying that I can't sit there and go, okay, hey, Kiefer over here was burglarized last night. That's going to get out anyways.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to hear about it, so I might as well talk to your neighbors about it too.
Before they panic.
I'm not talking about it to them to tell them, hey, look, Kiefer did it. It's so that, hey, look, did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Is there anything that you could lend to solving your problem? And kind of educate them on that neighbor-to-neighbor aspect, too. So now, hey, you already got hit once. Well, there's a good chance that, if it happened last night, they might come back. They may not have got everything.
Yeah.
So now that neighbor's watching. He's turning his cameras, and seen that. I told one neighbor, and he's like, he turned all his cameras around. And it works.
Yeah.
And like I said, you're reaching out into a problem, say like you do have a continual problem in a neighborhood, getting out there and talking with those folks to see what they see. Because, again, you'd be surprised at how many people don't want to talk about the fact that they were victimized.
Right, yeah.
Some people just don't want you to know.
Don't want you to know. Maybe sometimes they feel like it's their fault. I know
Or
that's...
embarrassed.
Or embarrassed, yep.
And there's nothing to be embarrassed about because it happens to everybody.
You're right. Yes.
I'm still looking for my welder. It left my garage. I don't know where that thing's
I
at.
don't know where it's at. So then after Nitro, was it Tarkio?
After Nitro, and I didn't just up and leave Nitro. I want to kind of explain that. I left Nitro for the chief's position here at Tarkio. At the end of my tenure at Nitro, there was a lot of grant funding issues coming along. The money was getting cut left and right. Certain parties at the time preferred to give money, whereas others tend to take it away.
What year?
And it was in 2008.
Okay.
So it was a Republican Party. Republicans don't spend as much money on those types of grant-funded positions.
Yep.
They tend to turn money in different ways. I mean, it is what it is. But on the third time, I get a call from the grant guy, and he goes, "Hey, you might want to go home. We're running out of your money.
Yeah.
The check hasn't come in yet." And then that happened a couple times. And then on the third time, it was like, man, I don't know if I can handle this.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to take care of my family, and
Yep.
if they call me in 2 days and say, sorry, no money,
Yeah.
I'm going to be without a check.
Yep.
So at that third time, the position for the chief's chief of police position for the city of Tarkio came open, and I applied for it. And
I'm trying to remember. Did you replace Jason, or was there
Yes.
somebody between you?
Jason,
No,
I
Jason.
replaced
Okay.
Jason Leakey.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. So you've been since 2008.
Yeah, since 2008. 15 years. September.
I didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah.
So you took it my senior year.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So so that gets us up to today.
Yep.
One question I have, I guess, a little bit, just because I think people make a lot of assumptions, myself included. But what, in all honesty, whether it be your opinion or truthfully, what should a sheriff actually be doing? What is the sheriff's true job?
Yeah. What do they do?
Bullet point to bullet point.
There is administrative stuff that comes along with the job. And me, I'm like, I run through that as fast as I can. Each
Okay.
one is different.
Yep.
Me, especially with Tarkio, because there's only two of us at this point when there should be three. I'm not an administrative sheriff, or excuse me, an administrative chief. I go out and work the road. I like to make traffic stops. I like to make that contact. All my traffic stops, except for a small handful, most of my traffic stops, I get a lot of information and intel from going out and working that, and it gives me an opportunity again, kind of like going knocking on doors to talk to the folks here in town. Like somebody got a taillight out, hey man, you need to get that fixed. And it gives me an opportunity to spend a couple minutes right there roadside and talk with them and chat with them, and to kind of educate them too the importance of getting that done as soon as you can.
Yeah.
And I don't have, but again, that small handful of people that wouldn't go out and get that taken care of. Most people you talk to them about it, and it's like, oh, I'll go get it taken care of, and it's fixed the next day.
Yeah.
There's no sense of writing a fix-it ticket. We'd write ourselves blue. But, you wouldn't be able to breathe with all the paperwork. But, yeah, a lot of them are administrative. They're in office. They focus on major cases and like the big five: murder, robbery, rape, and all that stuff. I like to work. You'll find that as soon as I can get done with paperwork, even now, I'm out the door. I like to be out and about, looking and maintaining that presence. Because frankly, I feel like I may be the boss, but I need to be a part of the problem solving.
Right. You need
well.
to stay competent
Yes.
in what you're managing.
And
Essentially,
if you're not out and about moving around and seeing what's going on, how would you know what's going on in the event of a crisis? Or
well,
a
hearsay.
The rumor mill's
Right.
faster than
Real
the
quick
internet.
up here, there's not so many people. It gets through
Well,
real fast.
Yeah, it's lightning fast. But yeah, a sheriff should be out there manning his people, participating. This is my opinion. They should be out there participating in the investigations, especially the crime ones, because everybody here in this county, if they're not working for somebody, they're a farmer. They're building things for farmers, and moving things for farmers. Wind tower.
Yep.
The companies are producing things for people. Every business and aspect, every person, crime of theft always puts people back. From the big guy to the little guy. And like my slogan's been for the last few years is if you chase the thief, you're going to get the drugs. So let's go for the twofer. Why chase one versus the other? If you can stop the theft, because ultimately it does. It affects everybody when it comes down to insurance, because there's going to be an insurance claim. Somebody's going to have to pay. The insurance company's going to have to pay the farmer. The farmer's going to have to replace the item. Probably got to dig into their pocket because there's a deductible.
Yep.
That's totally, in my opinion, totally unfair for them. That's the thing that we need to focus on. That's something I would focus on. I love chasing burglary crimes.
Yep.
There's a plethora of information. Anytime you go, somebody says, "Oh, you have a burglary," it kind of sucks because you know that this is going to be a long one. But at the same token, once you get there, it's like, oh yeah, we're here, we're the thing, and I enjoy it. I absolutely enjoy it. And you would find me digging every one of those. Yeah, and that's something right now that one of my things that I would love to see happen, or what I would see happen as sheriff, it'd be pushing them, because I would love to have one now. It's a full-time investigator just for those purposes.
Yeah. Yep.
That to me,
For the county.
for the folks, yes,
Yep.
for everybody, for the county, the farmers, everyone. A theft like that, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, farmers, and a lot of times they blow off a lot of that stuff too, because why did I leave my grain truck out in the middle of the field, and now when I fire it up, it's out of gas. So people go out there and those suckers and out in the middle of those fields and drain them things.
Oh, yeah.
Tractors, for a couple of years there, especially when the fuel prices went up into the
high.
4s and 5s, they were even stealing diesel out of tractors because they're, a lot of these older homes around here still had the diesel furnaces.
Stupidly, because it's red diesel that they're running. Easy to get caught for two different problems in that case.
They weren't dumping it in their cars, but they'd pump it out, take it home, pump it into their furnace. In the middle of winter, those old diesel furnaces, they're still around.
Got to run around and start testing everybody's. I'm
Yeah,
here to test your furnace.
Yeah, I'm here to see I want to see what's in here. Have you found red
Donnie.
diesel in that?
Hey, Donnie, when you're checking on their furnace, take some of these strips.
Check this out, would you?
Report back.
I'm pretty sure that'd be illegal. I'm not actually suggesting that went on.
Why? He's not a
Donnie.
cop.
Huh?
True.
Donnie's not a cop.
No, he's not. But you would be letting him in to do something completely different than test your diesel, I suppose. I don't know. It might not matter.
Well, as long as he's not being prompted or told to do this by a police officer.
Police officer,
If he chooses to do it and then tells us about it, that's a different story.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Kiefer, I think I've asked everything I want to ask. Do you want to start leading him down your trail?
I think you've been doing a great job, dude.
I know. I'm really good. You know that, but
Yeah,
we
you're,
know
you're
that.
really okay. But, yeah.
I'm really average. I'll take that. Average is pretty good overall.
Yeah, I guess with you running for sheriff, there's got to be a reason you want to do it. So what's like the number one thing or the top few things you want to change with your leadership style?
Well, kind of. There were some questions there about 30 days, 60 days. Now, every president even has a 100-day plan. Streamlining, information, building a better rapport of transparency. I love my Facebook page.
Yeah.
And the social media stuff. It's great for the transparency aspect. Continue to build on that or build on that to my style, and developing and looking at and reviewing the training aspects of what everybody's training levels are at the sheriff's office.
Yep.
What each of the deputies know, and start making in that first 30 days kind of scenario, plans to get them trained in areas that they're weak in. So if someone's if you're noticing that somebody's having issues with doing interviews and stuff, get them into the interview training, dealing with intel, get them to an intel class. There's a lot of free training that even the housing is incredibly cheap. It's like $7 a night in Des Moines at their academy, which is Camp Dodge.
Gotcha.
Camp Dodge has a name escapes me. Midwest Counter Drug Intelligence School. It's awesome. I've been there several times. I've done negotiators classes up there and did my hazmat for being a clandestine lab guy. And they have a great system up there. So,
Specialized training.
Yep.
Lots of yeah.
and it's free. Every bit of it's free.
Oh wow.
The housing is like $7 a night at the what I call it, Belaying. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But it's basically barrack style residency.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I've been there and had to stay on campus, and it was great.
Yeah.
So, look at those, find where the weaknesses are, build on those, and hopefully by the time 90 days rolls around, you're actively getting them into training and filling those gaps, and continue to work on that. And my thing, and I always told, I even told the city council when I started here, was one thing everybody needs to be able to do is interview people. You got to be able to talk to them, and not be afraid to talk to them.
Right.
So if that's an area that's lacking, that they don't have that training, I'm going to push it for some of those training modules, such as what's up at that academy at Camp Dodge. But there's once you get into that 100 days, you should be looking at, being able to move fluently. Your communication lines should be starting to really open up. There are some things, especially social media now, not only social media, but there's apps out there that, you can do a ton of intel, receiving intel through different apps. One in particular is called 411 Tips. You can download the app. You can tip anonymously, and they can actually tip live with the officers on scene.
Yeah.
Or actively on duty.
Gotcha.
So that could be, that's a very invaluable. You just can't imagine that just a little bit of information goes a long way in this field.
Right.
Just when you're trying to find out who did what.
Yeah.
So
I like that because like some of what I've heard you talking about, not only like communication's huge, always has been huge, but now it's communicating through technology.
Yes,
and this is no offense to anybody, but in a few different things that I do around town, I see the older generation, like they want to do a lot of really good things, but they have a very hard time bridging that gap to you now need to be communicating to young millennials.
Yes.
Gen Z is getting close to being, some of them adults, early parts of them.
Yes.
And then before you know it, Alpha is going to be, and they're all going to communicate that way.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get, no offense to these folks, because I don't, it's not a slight against them. It's just things have changed over time so long, but you still have those people kind of in charge and driving that ship kind of the way it's always worked.
Yeah.
And the farther you get away, the more a disconnect becomes, even though it seems like it worked really well at one time. And I think, like, just like the Atchison County putting out their roads and bridges post, like, it keeps people so much from calling up and being on the phone, automatically being pissed off.
Yeah.
You get a message out there, everybody can see it.
Yes.
And then I personally think that would be huge.
Yes.
In any way, is just integrating more technology.
Yeah, especially the anonymous for the younger generations, because a lot of the younger generations grow up with the culture of cops are bad. Don't talk to the cops.
That's true.
Don't snitch.
Especially right now, in the
Yeah.
last few years. Yep.
Ever since the everything 2020, 2021, they're bad. 17 with the incident in St. Louis with
Yep.
the shooting there in Florence. It was right there by Florence.
Well, it was
Darren Wilson,
Ferguson.
and Ferguson.
Yes.
That's the name of the town. With that, that was where kind of things changed too a lot in the laws that how we did things on the municipal level. They kind of started looking at that whole system and changed a lot of laws.
Yep.
So a lot of things that we used to do, we just don't do. And especially like when it comes down to fines and crimes, all that changed drastically.
Yeah.
After Ferguson.
Yeah. Communication's huge, and
Yes.
we don't communicate in the way that we used to.
No, it's amazing. Like you go to like a class, or even now, especially when you got a full, classroom of about 99 people in there of all the different age groups and whatnot. And there's guys over there writing what's down on, writing things down there up on the board that you're seeing. And then there's kids over there going, click.
Yeah,
They're making their own slideshow.
That's note taking.
Yeah, that's note taking. And they're making a slideshow.
Which
on the fly.
I'm somewhere in between. So I was born in 1990. Technology, in my view, was perfect at around 2002, 3, 4, somewhere in there. Where like you went to the computer to do stuff. It wasn't with you all the time.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, I understand that, like, growing up through that and seeing the way that it's going to go, like, it's just going to be more and more available to you constantly.
Yes, it is. And like I said, there's a lot of good apps out there. Like I said, Tips 411, I would love to have it here.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, it gives an opportunity for them to be anonymous. They can choose to not be anonymous.
Yeah.
But I would love to have it, because I think we would almost probably be overworked.
Yeah.
Truly.
But I still like to write notes because I feel like I learn it better than picturing and rereading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I do write.
Yeah.
I wrote some notes today, but I mean, I like to write things down. I like to hear it too. But if I hear it alone, if I don't write it, I don't retain it as well.
Well, yes. Yep, I agree with you. I know you're doing a lot back there. I'm just trying to think of another reasonable question. I mean, I can't read what you got on the board because I don't have my glasses, but I think I've asked a lot of what I wanted to get to.
And I have no problem coming back, and I would love to come back to talk some more with you.
Yeah, where are we at? Are we at an hour even?
Oh, we're there.
About
an hour. Yeah, about an hour 6. I think that's what that says. I don't have a reader, so I can't see it.
Hour 6.
Technically, I need like a binocular, but
So 90-30 days is good. I was trying to think. I had kind of another kind of thought about. Kiefer asked kind of why you want to move into that, and I think you've explained that fairly well. Yeah. I have maybe a more niche question for you. And again, I'm just going to ask you your opinion on this. And before I ask it, I'm going to say that this kind of thought process has been around for a while. I'm starting to hear little bits and pieces of it coming back up. But what are your thoughts on, let's say, Tarkio or Rockport, either one wants to get rid of their city force and then let the county take that? What are you, being interested in being sheriff, but also being on the city kind of police department, what would your opinion of, is there a right, a wrong, a better, or a worse, or can you just kind of walk us down the line of what that would entail?
well, first you need to understand what each does, or what each has the ability to do. The municipal ordinances are different than state ordinance or state statutes.
Yep.
Missouri has statutes, RSMO state statutes, and we have city ordinances for the city of Tarkio. Now, when you get into RSMO and state statutes, you don't have things like ordinances regarding public safety pertaining to close-knit residencies. So like cities, towns, people are living door to door. There's only, so many feet between them. The ordinances are written to promote public safety in those tighter populated areas.
Yep.
So like the nuisance ordinance, for instance, that's something that isn't at the state level. And when you talk about new municipal officers enforcing those, well, your county officer, your county deputy can't enforce those.
Right.
Because he can only enforce county, state, federal, whereas the municipal officer does municipal, county, state, federal, can do all four. And it goes on up the line. Like a trooper can't enforce a county ordinance.
Right. Yep.
He has to maintain the state, federal aspect. And just like the FBI, they can't come in here and enforce a municipal, county, or state law. They're strictly that federal law at the top. So the absence of the municipality, you lose a lot of your public safety that is designed for the populated area.
Gotcha.
Granted, again, there's that 2017 Ferguson incident where Senate Bill, through Senate Bill 519, a lot of the teeth of those type of ordinances with nuisances and parking violations and stuff like that. A lot of that changed. Some of them got codified out. Codified is it was determined that it was illegal, or I wouldn't say illegal, but just it violated people's rights.
Yeah.
So it got removed. But your municipal laws have their benefits. Your municipal police department in its own court has a very strong benefit because it can address and deal with those types of ordinances that are now pretty much kind of a code offense.
Gotcha.
If you don't have it, so like, I don't know, Rockport's down to 1. We're -1. If an agency bellies up or is basically disbanded, and, complaining about a nuisance is going to fall on deaf ears.
Right.
Because there's no one to enforce it. Once you've lost your court, once you lose your court, it's hard to get that back.
Yeah.
It is a true process, and today's process is long.
Gotcha.
Having it, because it's there and we've maintained it this long, we keeping it in our in our city limits at our city hall is a benefit for us.
Gotcha. Because I remember voting in, it must have been 2012, because I still had to vote in Westboro, and that would have been, I think the only time I voted in Westboro, if I remember correctly, there was a piece of legislature on there asking whether I thought St. Louis County should have jurisdiction over St. Louis, the city.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have any idea, nor is this going to affect me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so do you remember how that went?
I don't.
Did they give county jurisdiction over the city, or?
I'm not too certain that it ain't over. The state doesn't have that. St. Louis is an animal.
Right.
That is hard to understand.
Yes.
And I love the fact that it's 5 hours away. Because I don't have to deal with it. Because it's a strange animal. I'd have to look up because
Well, I'll tell you
it
this.
changes a lot.
I'll tell you this. It has gotten significantly since that point in time more and more dangerous.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
So maybe they did give it to the county and the county can't handle it. I don't know.
Not. I know that some friends of ours that they prefer to fly direct when they go overseas flying into Southwest St. Louis. You can go direct to Mexico.
Yep.
So they drove all the way there and got back, and their Jeep was guarded
Stripped.
lot. Yep, pretty much. and they're like, well, it is kind of rough around that airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to not be. I mean, we're not talking that long ago.
Yeah, you can't, it's pretty sketchy walking around Union Station.
Yeah. We went to,
And back
Union
before
Station
that.
was like literally when I was working at Nitro, it was just a block away from where we were. In a lot of aspects. But, we went to St. Louis to pick up, the cop car that I have now, the white one. And they took us on a tour of the old Rams Stadium.
Yeah.
And their workout area and all that stuff. And
Edward Jones Dome.
is that what it is?
Yeah. It was last I knew. I think that's what it was when they left still.
Well, it was cool. But we're going through neighborhoods like, I'm glad I got a gun. And then he takes you through another area and you're like, man, I need two to feel safe.
Yeah. I think I remember being Dustin Nolan, his wife Courtney is from Cape Girardeau. She went to school in St. Louis, and when she was still going to school, he would go down there a lot, but we would go with him occasionally. And I remember those years, like 2000, I don't know, probably 11, 12, 13, 14, everything was okay. And then I started with Ameren in 20, but I know it was going downhill before that. But one of the first things they told us when we went down to the GOB is do not go to Union Station by yourself because there's like a giant court between the building and the railroad tracks, and then you can get into Union Station. And they're like, people have been getting mugged regularly at lunchtime trying to go down to Union Station to eat.
Well, even we were down there. It's been a while. This would have been going down to Power and Light and staying at what is that one there at Union Station? The hotel, the big hotel with the walk-in mall.
In St. Louis?
No,
in Kansas City,
in
Power
Kansas
Light.
At Union Station. It's the
at
same way.
Union Station. Yes, gotcha.
It's the same thing. There's a section right there you don't cross in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And our guy told us specifically, if you can walk down there now, and there's a park there. He goes, but don't walk back.
Right.
And that was the door guy.
Gotcha.
Can't say it. Same scenario. It's kind of weird how they kind of stretch, and like I said, how bad things kind of squeeze in the middle of a bunch of good stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And so driving around with some people that were from down there, and I've stayed down there a few times, specifically at the Drury at Union Station, and I have had one instance where I really got scared. Otherwise, everything's been okay, but not good. But driving around that area with them, there was two people that lived down there, and they would be like, that block's fine, that block's not, that block's okay, this stretch over here, all of it's not good, but then if you get 2 more blocks to the east, that's fine. It's not even, it's just wherever now, it feels like, in that particular area of town.
And a lot of that, I think, falls back on, who moves in.
Yeah.
And too, like I said, we were in Kansas City quite a bit when I was at Nitro. I like to tell this story. We were sitting in that kind of like a surveillance van one night. It was like, hey, who are the 2 guys outside the van? And we're like listening. It's like, man, I think they're going to steal us. The keys were still in the ignition, but the doors were locked.
Yeah.
We had an old van with wing windows.
Yeah.
And we're in the back of this capsule that's inside that thing. It's like, oh. So they're like, hey, boss, what do we do if they break out the window and take off with us? And I'm like, well, shoot them.
Yeah, or just see where they take you. Hell, you might find something.
The good thing about that whole scenario is you could tell they might have been a little intoxicated, probably, but they couldn't find a rock to break the window.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's all that stopped them?
That's all that stopped them. And they continued on after about 5 minutes of deciding there wasn't
What
a
a
big
bunch
enough
of
rock.
what a bunch of quitters.
Because that's like
That wouldn't stop 80s criminals.
Could you imagine could you imagine standing outside of a van having a full conversation of what's the best way to do this? And you finally break in and it's just filled with cops.
yeah, that was going to be a bad day. It was going to be a real bad day for this. But I mean, we're like, I'm seriously, because the thing we had in there, it was a periscope, and I'm not joking when I say you spun it like this and it rose up out of the top of the van, out of the vent, so you can look away. And I was like, yeah. And it's open, so you can hear everything around you. So you hear them through the periscope. We're like, oh, shit, I think they're going to kidnap us. Or, well, they're going to steal us. And I looked at my partner, you got the keys? He goes, oops. They're in the ignition.
Oh, wow.
That's why they were going to steal us.
That's why they were going to steal it.
Plus, it had wings. I mean, wing windows and vans and trucks like that.
Wow.
Kind of went by the wayside over the years, but this one still had them. So,
Yeah. Is there, Keever, can you think of anything else?
I had a question.
Okay, I was going to say, just sheriff related, or go ahead.
Yeah, so you're talking about like Rockport and Tarkio being understaffed. Do you think the sheriff's department for Atchison County is staffed well enough to do the job that the county deserves to be done?
I think their staff is young.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's a very young. They really have a young staff. In fact, Nick, who we hired, is over there now. Katie just came back from the academy and is on the road. They have a young staff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do I think it's thick enough, especially for the night stuff? I tend to kind of like to make sure that night portion is definitely staffed because that's 90% of where the crime
happens. Yeah.
Everything from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. is your hot time of the day. That's where you should be focusing your manpower if you have it at those targets, even on the weekends and whatnot. Because those poor guys, they don't have a full staff to go through the weekend to cover days too. So unfortunately, that means those poor guys that have to get called out, kind of like what we do, to go answer for a problem in the morning. So I think it could be a little thicker so that you're covering 24/7. Because those, like I said, those guys at night need to really be able to focus.
Yeah.
It's tough. Falling asleep at the wheel is a real thing.
Yeah.
Even for us. I mean, I used to make fun of them, but some guys would go park somewhere, and all of a sudden you go driving by there, and there they are. Yeah. It'll hit you that fast.
Yeah.
Just in a matter of minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So
There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a young police force,
no.
but like you said, the thing that's going to help is the education, doing the classes. That's going to.
Well, and the beauty about the young staff that is here, it's all people that are going to stay here.
Yeah.
I think for the most part,
All local.
it appears to be. Yes.
And they're tech savvy. I mean, that's where there's a ton of tech there now that could be rolling information day in, day out, and being able to communicate it right back to your officers. There's again, it's another one of them that we're tight budget. They have a little bit more looser budget with there. They have a little bit more of a funding, but there's things like Scene Doc where it literally all your officers can be on that at the same time. It's kind of like Facebook for cops in your department. So as things are unfolding, if you're nearby, heck, I can stop in there and help if it need be. But at the same token, as it's unfolding, you can communicate to that next line, like they saw something and they're like, oh, hey, that's Jimmy so and so's. That's
right.
They can communicate it live as it's each are solving the crime.
Yes. Yeah. Almost like what we have in our business is what they call tech support. And it's somebody that sits at the computer and has like all the drawings, all the information, but you can call that person and talk to them and they can help you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it kind of gives you same type of thing.
This gives you the opportunity for everybody, on the department
To see it.
see what's going on. Oh, hey,
Yep.
Jimmy's got a call.
Yep.
Oh, hey, I've seen that vehicle before.
Yep.
Oh, it was over here at this place.
Yep.
And
That's pretty awesome.
That rolling, constant rolling communication. It's again, it's kind of almost put you back into that 24. Everybody's being a 24/7 cop, but you would be amazed at how much intel slips between the crack and goes unnoticed for a long period of time when you needed it back at the start. It could have ended the whole problem. You could have got to the guy quicker and probably prevented him from doing something else to other people and victimizing them as well. So.
Right.
Well, just working long shifts, especially overnight, you're going to forget to write something in a report or remember something that
Yep.
might have somewhat sticked out but wasn't important until somebody says it. And just having a tool to help ease away human error.
Yes.
Yeah. Or just if you didn't document it, it didn't happen, and now you're kind of unofficially in some cases, but you're still a document or a script to go back to.
We have an actual running log that we can, all of us, myself, Tyler, and Georgia, can all get in there and we all input into it. That's where we draw our case numbers. But we also have another app on the side. And it's very similar to Scene Doc. You can add photos and stuff to it. But it's called Crew, and it's simply for that kind of stuff. Pass along information, shift information and stuff like that. And the Scene Doc does that too.
Gotcha.
But it's very fluid to where everybody can see what everybody's doing. They can look at schedules. They can look at the case that's occurring. And in some cases now, that's something I am jealous. They have through Axon, which is Taser. They have a integration into your car. Now it does cost a little bit because as you're putting internet, Wi-Fi in the cop cars, hot all the time.
Yeah.
But say like they get on a call, they get done with the call, they turn it off. It automatically hits the car and uploads to the cloud. So they're offloading their body cam just as fast as they're getting it.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I'd love to do that. I think Digital Ally has finally kind of gotten to it. But the last time I saw their price tag, it was like, nope.
No, but give it 5 years, and it might be.
Give it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's crazy they don't just have it per user, something realistic, instead of something that's like $12,000 a month.
Oh yeah, I would hate to see what that bill is from.
Yeah.
I know what it is for internet. We have FirstNet for all our police phones, and everything's unlimited. I mean, we have unlimited data. We're running around at $40 a person for $40 an officer, and we have tablets, and we have our work iPhones.
Yep.
And it's great, but
all satellite driven.
no, it's the FirstNet. Say like in the event of a what we call an MCI, a mass casualty incident, if you say that happens, well, what's everybody do? You get on the phone. They're calling letting everybody know. With FirstNet, when that happens, we pick up the phone. We need to call somebody.
Yeah.
It puts us at the front of the list.
Oh, gotcha.
On the cell phone thing. Because as everybody's picking up their phone, they're moving down a list.
Right.
That, more and more people are filling in. But we jump to the front. And stay.
Interesting. Gotcha.
And so then we're maintaining our cellular communication. And like I said, we're not rolling down the list and then falling off. Because once you hit 10,000 in certain cases, the call will drop. And then you have to fight to get back in. Well, with FirstNet, we just jump to the front of the list and stay.
Gotcha. That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
I had a question related to that, but I don't remember what it was. But what I will, do you have anything else pressing you want to ask?
Not pressing.
Well, okay, so real quick, I have got 2 questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
Before we're out of here. But first, is there anything else you want to discuss for the election, Sheriff? Do you feel like you've covered it? Was there anything that you, Tyson, want to just put out?
We don't have enough time. There's a lot there that he's got a great list. I got to give it to him. I was sitting there going through this, going, wow, this is really impressive. I didn't even get to the second page. I was enjoying the first one. So
before we wrap up, I just don't want to cut you out of any message that you still want to put out.
Yeah. Right now, like I said, like we discussed before, the voting dates, August 6th is going to be the big date for everyone.
Yep.
So right now, I don't know how he's on there. It's just right now, I think only 2. There may be 3.
Okay.
3 of us on the same ticket. So don't forget to vote. That is not only our right, but it's a civic duty that that we go out and participate in that. So
Yep.
get out and vote, and make sure if somebody else can't, do the same thing, make it to their polling station, give them a ride, help them find a ride, whatever it takes.
Yep.
But
Remind them.
everybody get out there and remind them.
Facebook, check your Facebook.
check your
It's
Facebook, 'cause
getting
we're
very good
blowing
about
that
being
up.
out there. So like, what's in the average voter participation rate? I don't know about our elections, but like even in the federal elections, isn't it like 50% just over 50%?
Yeah, it's pretty low.
It's so low, and it's disappointing. It should not be that way.
No, and like I said, a lot of it too. A lot of people are at work. That's
I
why
don't know
that
why they
crazy
don't give
time
people the
frame
whole
is only
day
7
off.
to 7. Yeah, or a whole day, or at least it's 7 to 7. I get it, but some people work 7 to 7.
7, yes.
A 12-hour day is not uncommon anymore.
Common. And most people are like, well, you have the right to leave and vote. It's like, well, yes. But that doesn't always mean logistically that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
either,
True.
I was always fortunate because run to Casey's or whatever in the morning anyway, just stop in and vote. But if you're a factory worker and you get stuck
can't.
on overtime, you're kind of screwed. I mean, they have to let you off, but what that does is set you back 2 more hours of work, essentially. So,
And they like their numbers.
Yes.
They're a numbers type of.
And some people
situation,
can't
so.
afford to miss the time at work.
correct. Yeah.
You know?
Well,
But-
you get paid. Like they have
Yeah.
to let you leave and come back, but it doesn't mean that like it's in your best interest to like, I don't know, say I work in Maryville and I have to vote over here.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for me to go to work in Maryville in the morning. Like if I have something to do, drive back home, vote, and then drive 40 minutes back to my job. You know what I mean? That's why the whole letting you off to go vote only works if you're working somewhere in your general area that you're allowed to vote. There's people in cities that drive a couple hours. You know what I mean? So their voting station is so far away from.
And I don't know. I think that the voting stations, I mean, the gals that run it anyways, all the gals, it takes an army to do it.
Yeah.
But I think there's plenty of them anymore, especially what I've seen with the different gals that are there doing it. My mom even volunteers to help with that. If we could do like a shift, 2 7s, 14, make it like 6 to 9, you know, to where,
Right, yes.
These really, really early people that have to commute an hour to their 7 o'clock start time.
Yep.
They would have well, not an hour, but at least, at the end of it, it's, say 7 o'clock when they get up, they still have 2 hours to go and vote. And they don't have, they're not feeling rushed. They're not, hurrying to get to it.
Yeah, or God forbid you have to come open up just even another hour earlier. I think you'd be surprised at what that would do. But I don't know. People are going to look at me like I'm not getting up at 4:30 so I can go vote and then go to work in a long commute situation. But some would.
Some would.
Yeah.
And two, I think if you said, hey, boss, I'm going to be an hour late because I'm going to go vote, and I get 2 hours anyways.
Right.
Right at the start of the shift, I think that would be better than right in the middle.
Middle, yeah, exactly. Or end, because at the end, most of the time you're trying to just finish a little bit of stuff up.
Trying to finish stuff you started.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions. One, do you remember the first time you ever pulled me over?
No. I get that a lot. I had somebody remind me that 10 times in one day, and it was here.
Yeah.
Do you remember that time you pulled me over? No.
I was in my Honda Civic. I had a 2002 black Honda Civic Coupe that was from Nebraska, so it was almost completely tinted, which I don't think anybody here ever gave me any shit about, but Tyler McIntosh borrowed it one time to take his girlfriend at the time back to Balco, and a state guy really bugged his ass about that, and he was just like, it's not my car, man. Like there's literally nothing I can do. But what had happened was somebody was driving like 15 mile an hour, like kind of by the tennis courts. Yeah. And I was in a hurry. It would have been like,
were you passing?
Right after you started? Yeah, I passed. It would have been right after you started. It would have been like probably 2009 sometime. You'd probably been there for a year, a little better. And I did. I was just like, what? So I whipped around and passed, and you saw me, and you pulled me over on Park Street, and you were just like, I saw that pretty fancy maneuver you did back there, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, and you realized who I was. You realized who I was, and he was like, are you in a hurry to get out to a wind turbine or something like that? And I was just like, No, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I'm just in a hurry to dick around, you know.
Yeah.
And you were nice enough; you let me off. But I remember you were just like, you were asking me all about wind turbines and stuff, and I was just like, "Yeah, all your points are valid, but I'm not trying to get out there. I'm just being kind of an impatient asshole." Yeah. So,
no, but you'd be surprised at how many times I get. My favorite one. There was this. Ran into him at Casey's. This guy comes up to me and goes, "Man, do you remember me from Shenandoah?" I'm like, "Dude, how old are you?" Like, 19.
No.
You had to have been 5. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, at the oldest. And I'm like, "No. Who are you?" And they tell me their name. "Man, I can't believe you don't remember. What was the context of our encounter?" And no joke, they were 5.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I don't remember. I don't even recognize you."
What could you have possibly been doing that would have stuck out in my brain while you were 5 as a law enforcement?
He gave him a junior PO badge.
Yeah.
Well, you were
Him and
there because
everybody
Mom
in
and Dad
Shan.
were fighting. It's like, so we really weren't even paying attention to you.
Yeah, exactly.
What were you doing? Sitting there eating ice cream?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. The only other thing I can remember, and that's the only time that I think you have ever pulled me over. There was maybe 1 or 2 other instances where a particular officer from the past was always trying to bust me drinking and driving, and I almost never did.
Almost never did.
Almost never did. There was one time I wasn't drunk at all, and he would not accept that, basically, and held on to us for several, not hours. It was probably 45 minutes, and ended up ticketing somebody else on the car for a different reason, who was also somebody else that he picked on regularly. And then one other time, I had like probably 3 beers in the span of an hour and a half or 2 hours up at Jennifer Romines'. I think it was her wedding reception when she married Preston. Like, they had a little party or something up there for that. And I had a few beers, and the individual pulled me over again for like the 3rd or 4th time. And he was just like, "Have you been drinking?" And I looked at him and I was like, "Yes, I've had 3 beers in the last 2 hours." And he's like, "Well, come on out and I want you to do a sobriety test." I'm like, "Get the blower. I am not interested. I will blow for you. If I am over the limit, you can take me to jail, but I don't want to do all this shit. I'm trying to go drink more at the bar." You know what I mean? And if you see me driving home from the bar, stop me, because I will be drunk then. And he's just like, "No, I got to go through the process and all this stuff." And I think at this point you had pulled up, and I'm pretty sure when you heard me asking for the breathalyzer, then he gave me the breathalyzer like I was asking for.
Most people, you can't get them to that point.
It's just like, why waste our time, sir? Exactly. Like, if I thought I was drunk, I would be behaving much more differently than I am right now, you know? Yeah. And
I'm pretty good with the eye test. I mean, I've done enough that I can actually gauge pretty close.
Close, yeah.
Where you're gonna get. But
three
beers won't even get you to bounce.
I know. Can you get, especially over the time period, but can you get pretty close to what they're going to blow? Yeah.
I remember one night, this was a lady that she could hold her liquor. She walked the line and everything else great.
Yeah.
But, and when we did the horizontal gaze attack to start with, it was one of those you put the finger up there and you're like, uh-oh. The eyeballs are sitting there going like this the whole time. Like, have you ever hit your head? She's like, no. You've never had a head injury? No concussion?
No.
377.
Wow.
In the field.
Whoa.
We go to the office. She maintained 377 to the next machine.
We have a friend that got a DWI, and he blew like almost 0.2.
Yeah.
And like, we were looking all this stuff up, and we're like, dude, you basically should be in a coma on the average person. 377?
377. I was like, oh, this thing's broke.
Were they very big?
You were drinking sun up. Well, I don't know. You're drinking sun up to sundown. What you're doing?
She did.
Yeah.
But no, she was a taller gal. She was probably about 5'10", almost 6 foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was a little stockier, but walked the line. I'm like, huh, something's wrong. So then
Didn't guess that one right.
no. So we do the one like saying it's like she's doing better than me. Okay. The PBT 377. Holy cow. So like, all right, you got to come with me. The machine says you got to go. And we go into the next machine at 377 again. I'm like,
stayed there. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a fluke.
So It was like one of those, you get to the question and answer part. So, when was the last time you drank? Oh, right before you pulled me over.
Yeah. Yeah, you might as well be honest.
Yeah. It's like, but walked
better-
I
on.
haven't swallowed yet.
The better answer is when am I not?
She could have went with that.
Every day. Yeah. Unless I'm
It
asleep.
was a female.
Oh yeah.
I was like, whoa. I had a guy that was 375. He was my second.
Yeah. It's crazy to me, and I don't mean to generalize here, but it's crazy to me how many females have drinking problems. I think they're overall in general until you find out much better at hiding it from you. Unless it's just somebody that is in the same place drinking all the time publicly. But like it's pretty alarming. Like there are some people in the area that I had no idea. I found out, and then now it's obvious to me, but I would have never guessed. So
I could tell these stories all day long because there's several of them that some of them you're like, I gotta take you to jail. Dang it! Why did you do this to me? And that's a problem with just being a local person. But
well, yeah,
you have a
because
responsibility to do that.
to do the right thing, and the problem with that is like you being a local person in one local area forever. There's probably cars that you see driving down the street that you could go, I could bust them at any time. But that's not, at the same time, that's not A, the purpose of the law, or B, what you want to do, right? But at the same time, you want to keep everybody safe.
Mm-hmm. Now, if there's a driving problem, that's something we got to deal with.
Yep.
Them cutting through a yard.
Or just driving down the middle of Main Street instead of their lane, or
the other side.
Speeding.
And that was something, too, with there was an officer that lived on the north side of town, from Tarkio County. He had the opportunity to drive by my grandma's house every day. And all of a sudden, it was one of those scenarios where getting complaints about grandma's driving. Grandma wasn't staying in her lane or on the road. So he had came on shift one day and rounded the corner to go to work, and my grandma left the house at the same time. And fortunately, he made the stop when he went through McIntosh's at the time's yard, because grandma was, I think, seeing two, but she was picking this one. So she was driving through yards. Yard farming.
Oh, no.
From where she crossed Spruce Street, he got her at Poplar.
That sounds like the Ron White joke about they were pulling everybody over driving through those yards on that particular block, and that is profiling, and profiling's wrong.
And there was a guy that he had a license, but he didn't have a car. He didn't drive it. He drove a lawnmower to the bar. He was harmless.
Well, there was a guy that used to drive the tractor everywhere.
There was a tractor, but the guy on the lawnmower took it to the next step, and we had to actually stop him. And it was one of them was just like, why
Was
did
it
you do
Terry? Did he say? Did
I
he
can't
give
remember
you,
his name.
Did you give you the whole? Now I know my rights.
Well, I got that too. But you don't have the right to mow the yard as you're going home. He did.
at the place.
He turned on the mower deck.
Yeah.
Just started mowing away.
Probably forgot
All
where
the
he
way
was
home.
at.
Yep.
That's
he was going
crazy.
between houses.
Do you remember the tractor person I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
I do.
Yeah. Drug his dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I remember him.
That
That little
mower-
box that was on the back, right? The PTO shaft that's spinning.
Yep. And then the dog just fell out, and he had no idea. Yeah. It lived a long time after that.
Yeah.
But I think, he drug him.
A ways.
Shit, probably 3 miles, something like that. Because it was like somewhere aroundish somewhere around the car wash till somewhere like almost to the county barn or something, where somebody finally got him to realize that he was dragging the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having your blade down mowing people's yard is actually really smart.
It's a bit of a public service. Yeah.
One, but two,
Need to stay on the property lines. It would have been better.
but if you're drinking and driving home from the bar, you're bound to drop your phone, your wallet, or something.
Nowadays.
Easy to track where you dropped your wallet or something.
Yeah. That is true.
I was like, oh, no. That was the call.
Yeah.
Somebody's driving through yards mowing.
My daffodils.
Unintentional. Yeah. That's,
Unintentional.
he hit somebody's clothesline with the deck. But I think that's probably what turned it on. I think that's when he turned it on, is when he hit them. Because he was like, oh, man, the deck fell. So that instead of grabbing that, he grabbed the PTO, and now he's mowing.
Mowing, yeah.
And he just kept going.
Yeah. Clueless.
Funny.
I'm mowing.
Okay. I heard it bogged down back there, but
Yeah, especially when I went over that curb.
yeah. Well, Tyson, I've got to get around and go pick up Simon. His tabs is closed today, but I know everybody's down. But I appreciate this. It was extremely informative. We'll have to have you back on sometime. There's so many other questions I want to ask you about other things.
Yeah, we had a lot to cover, and I don't even think we got to the first page.
No, but that's okay. I mean, and then someday there's probably stuff I would like to talk to you about that we may have to wait till you retire if we're still going. But just, I don't know. You're pretty open. I think it's fine, but
Yeah, as long as you don't name names.
names, yeah. So, but I really appreciate it. It's great. Kiefer, you got anything else? We'll try to get this thing out as quick as possible. And I think this one went unbelievably well, so it'll bump
The
up.
more we do, the better.
The better we get. I think we'll bump up in queue for you too and get it out
Yeah.
as quick as possible. So
Sweet.
we'll give you that same treatment that you get with your data and internet and phone. So
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Go vote.
thank you.